The UK Gambling Commission has come under fire from a group of MPs who've described the regulator as toothless and weak. In the report published by the House of Commons Public Accounts Committee, the group's accused of failing to protect vulnerable people, while the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport is branded complacent. Sky correspondent Emma Birchley has the latest.
The lure of online gambling has made it all so easy to spend, and fast. David Bradford's family had no idea he'd racked up £500,000 worth of debt until they got the call that he was on his way to prison.
I used up every source of funding for my gambling addiction. I likened it at the time to being an hamster wheel where you just couldn't get off, but you were pedalling and pedalling faster and faster and just getting sunk into more and more debt.
What doesn't help, according to a committee of MPs, is the government and Gambling Commission's unacceptably weak understanding of the impact betting can have, describing the regulator as toothless.
We've found a regulator that is too slow to act, it's too weak to identify robust action. It doesn't have any targets to reduce the levels of problem gambling, for which there are 395,000 people in the UK who are problem gamblers, and individuals can't get proper redress.
The committee's report has called for a radical overhaul of the regulator. It wants a league table of operators naming and shaming poor performers, an urgent review of the Gambling Act, setting out a timetable for that within 3 months, improved collection of data to better understand gambling problems and then respond, and an urgent investigation into the impact of fixed odds betting, legally accessible to 16 and 17-year-olds. Part of the issue is that the gambling industry is changing so fast. There's no need to go to the bookies to bet. Instead, it's all available on a screen, with new games emerging all the time. A spokesperson for the Department for Culture, Media and Sport said it was committed to protecting people from gambling-related risks, while the regulator said it was determined to deliver faster progress, adding, "Over the past 2 years, we have strengthened player protection measures, tightened the regulation of the online sector, introduced strict age and ID verification checks, brought in a ban on gambling with credit cards, and been tougher through our enforcement activity." David spent 8 months in prison. Since then, he and his son have set up the Safer Online Gambling Group to increase awareness of the risks. They know firsthand just how damaging it can be. Emma Birchley, Sky News.
Well, let's get more on this now. Joining me is the Conservative MP Richard Holden and member of the Public Accounts Committee. Quite a damning report you guys have come up with, the government and the Gambling Commission.
Yes, no, very much. I mean, we're looking at an industry here which takes in net around £11.3 billion a year. So it's a huge industry. It's massively grown online over the last few years. And quite frankly, the regulations from the 2005 Gambling Act just aren't up to scratch. And it's about time that the government got on with the review into that Gambling Act. And really, we need some regulation right for the present time, because we're seeing consumers being let down across the piece, people in your piece there. And I think what James said earlier on, and my colleague on the committee was absolutely right. They're not looking at it properly. They're not doing the research. And it is particularly toothless, is the Gambling Commission. And there's very little comeback for people who have been vulnerable people, hundreds of thousands of them, problem gamblers in the UK, and 1.8 million more in the at-risk category. And we need to see some real change here.
I mean, it really is destroying lives, isn't it? And as you say, vulnerable people and also often children. This fixed odds betting accessible to 16 and 17-year-olds, that surely can't be right.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's one of the issues I raised in the committee session that we had with the Gambling Commission, that 16 and 17-year-olds can bet hundreds of pounds online because, through the National Lottery and through scratch cards. So instant win, essentially fixed odds. It's regulated in the same way as a lottery, and it's not the same thing as a lottery at all. We need to really get a handle on this online fixed odds betting. We've seen real action from Parliament in the past, people like Tracy Crouch really taking this forwards on the fixed odds betting terminals. The entire industry, though, has moved online, and that's where we really need to see action now.
The report talks about government complacency. Do you think there is willingness from within government to try and change it, or is there lobbying behind the scenes from a very valuable gambling lobby?
I think there really is a desire for a change within government, and this was in the Conservative Party manifesto at the election that we'd review the 2005 Gambling Act, which a lot of this liberalisation came from. But I think at the time people just didn't think about the presence of online. This was before Twitter even existed. So we've got to have a proper look at this now. The gambling is now online. The majority of it is more gambling happens online than if you put all the physical casinos, bookies, racetracks all together. So we're now looking at trying to regulate an online industry, and we have a bit of an analog system for regulating a digital industry, and we need to get beyond that. And James is quite right. We are seeing the odds are stacked against people at the moment, particularly the most vulnerable, and that's who we need to be protecting.
Richard Holden, member of the Public Accounts Committee. Really good to get your thoughts on this. Thank you.
Thank you.